Hello, everyone, and welcome to Killing in Circumstances. I'm your host, Marian Angeles, and this is our show. Hello, everybody. Welcome. And so for today, we're going to be talking about nostalgia. There's no need to kind of do the little intro thing. This is like a backlog of a whole bunch of different episodes I'll be doing that you'll be seeing coming out consistently. So this is definitely not something where we're going to be all for doing everything at once because it'll burn me out. But we're talking about nostalgia. And when you think about nostalgia, you think about those TV shows that really warmed your heart and were part of your childhood and gave really amazing memories. And for me, I could think about the Powerpuff Girls, Dora the Explorer, what else? I can't really think of. Oh, Arthur from PBS, or Cyber Chase, or Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I did watch a little bit when I was a kid too. And those are all examples of just nostalgia, because nostalgia means different things to everybody, where you'll remember a certain show and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I loved that show. It made me remember this about my childhood, and I love that. And nowadays, there are always new shows and movies that are coming out that are based on people's experiences. And what I mean by that is not people's experiences. I mean past TV shows, their reboots, and doing that kind of stuff. And there are definitely some people that say you shouldn't be wasting time or money on stuff that has already been done. But there are so many people out there that want something new, that want something old and something that feels familiar to them. So another example would be Teen Titans. They had Teen Titans Go, two completely different shows in the aspects of their seriousness, but they both have a correlation to going from older generation to the previous generation to today's generation. Even my youngest sibling watches the show, so it definitely relates. And one of my favorite shows was Phineas and Ferb. It was so uncomplicated. And for those who haven't seen the show, it's about these two boys who are like stepbrothers, Phineas and Ferb. Ferb doesn't talk much. Phineas kind of does pretty much all the talking. And they come up with a new idea during summer vacation, a new invention, a new thing to do, and they come up with that every single day. And Perry goes off and defeats Dr. Doofenshmirtz, which is his assigned evil boss. And then there is Phineas. Well, there is Candace, who is Phineas and Ferb's older sister, who is trying to bust her brothers and never does. And that aspect of just, there is this continuing plot line. And it's so uncomplicated and sometimes a little boring, but there's always this excitement about seeing something that's familiar and fun, and you just remember all the good times. One of my favorite episodes, if anyone knows it, please comment down below if you know what I'm talking about. Winter and summer. I loved it. They made this whole machine that made this snow mountain paradise, and it was this whole different area of cold in a heated place, and it was just so much fun. And I love the song for Winter too, and it's it warms my heart and soul just to be able to remember those kind of things, because what we need sometimes is some nostalgia, something that feels familiar, that reminds us of the days when we were kids and didn't worry about things as much. And Phineas and Ferb is really a prime example of that. Now, they ended their show in 2014, 2015. I don't exactly remember when they actually ended it. And I'll be honest with you. They ended it in, 2015. I was just pulling it up. And I was heartbroken when they ended it. But I was already an adult. Well, I was 13, but I wasn't really watching it. And they just came out 5 years later with a movie called Candace Against the Universe, where Candace ends up going into outer space, and she is finally appreciated by these people on a foreign planet, and because Candace feels like the universe is always against her, and what she loves and what she wants is really to bust her brothers, but it's just something deeper behind that. And so today we're going to be talking about Candace and her characteristics. Of course, this is her movie after all. And then we're going to talk about just general elements, this general way that nostalgia hits us in a different way than other things do. And then I also want to talk about, just in general, the unifying theme of the show and what we're really going to be talking about. So yeah, let's get into it. Candace is seen as this angsty teenager that is always willing to bust her brothers, and she loves Jeremy, who's her boyfriend, Stacy, who's her best friend, and it's very complicated. When you watch the show, you'll see that the show is very stagnant in character development, and that it's like, okay, this is how the character is going to be throughout pretty much the entire show, except for like one or two exceptions. And that's fine, because if they're kids, there isn't really much of a need for character development. But towards the end of the show, they finally started addressing some of the other things that Phineas and Ferb fans wanted, because now they were teenagers and wanted something more, like having Phineas and Isabella be together finally as adults, and just addressing Candace a little bit more. But that doesn't really happen until this movie. And I really do believe that from the bottom of my heart, that they don't really address Candace as much until this movie came out. And with Candace, Stacy, her best friend, analyzed her, and she's like, don't you think that maybe you only bust your brothers because you want to have some self-worth and feel that your brothers always take all of the attention, and that all you want is just someone who cares about you? And I was like, wow, okay, you're gonna do that to me? Just give me a straight thing, not give me like little hints or anything, or they're just gonna say it straight out. And Candace was like, yeah, you're right, but I don't know what to do. My brothers will always get away with everything. And then when she lands on this foreign planet, this leader, she's like, you're the chosen one. You're going to help us keep this planet strong, and we're going to be best friends. And there's just this power behind it that Candace feels. And it's like, oh my gosh, someone actually cares about me and wants me as me. I love that. And Phineas and Ferb, they realize that and end up trying to go after her. And regardless, Candace's self-worth and worth to her belief of her worth to other people kind of goes up and down in the movie, where at first she feels like she's so low and then feels super high, and then when her brothers arrive, she goes back right down, and then by the end she kind of meets this middle point that's like, okay, I understand a little bit better about that my brothers aren't the ones doing this, and the universe isn't necessarily our fault, but we're all in this together, and we're all a family. And forget about me, I love you, from the This Is the Year review that you guys will also get to see. And it's just this special, beautiful thing. And Candace uses this psychoanalysis with the person who runs the planet, and she's like, don't you think that you are taking over just because you feel that your brothers always had meant more to you, and this and this and this? And she kind of uses that against her for a second, but even the leader of the planet acknowledges that is true, but still wants to take over. Long story short, the person who appreciates Candace is using her in order to have all of her minions be under her control. And that is absolutely, it's kind of messed up. It's just this way of saying, oh, screw you, you're gonna do this for me, and this is just the way things are gonna be. And at first she doesn't know it, and then she realizes. And when her brothers go and help her, it's like, oh my gosh, I have this self-worth and need that people want me, and that my brothers love me, and that I don't need to tell my mom about this. And there's just a lot to that, I guess. Like, it makes it go full circle, because when you watch Phineas and Ferb, there's a couple of different plot holes that are in it that don't really get fully addressed by the end of the series, even though the series was 7 years long. And Candace's plotline about why she acts the way that she does is not full circle. It's more like a 3/4, because at some point she's like, oh my gosh, I do love my brothers, but at the same time I don't love them because I can never bust them. And there's no reason to why. She's kind of just one way or the other, and you're just kind of stuck in why is she like that. And pretty much almost all the other characters have had their own plot developments. You just have to they just have to keep going, and that's what I find really special, especially right now when we are all at home, and the most important message is just staying together and just figuring out why we do the things that we do, and figuring out our own worth to other people and to ourselves. Along with watching this movie, there is this aspect of the nostalgia. And of course, I already mentioned that in the beginning and why it's so important, but there is a little bit of science that happens behind this. And I'm reading something right now. It's an article from Neurology Times. I don't know how reputable they are, but just if you want to look it up, definitely look it up for yourself on what nostalgia does to the brain and to our body. So nostalgia essentially nostalgic experiences stimulate metabolic activity and blood flow in several regions of the brain. And you're getting it in the frontal, the midbrain areas, you're getting in the limbic and paralimbic areas. And when you don't have music that is not necessarily nostalgic, you don't feel you don't have that much brain activation. And the same thing, and it makes sense because you feel this whole stimulation, oh my gosh, it's just this sense of joy and happiness or sadness, because even nostalgic experiences, some of them can trigger really bad memories. And also looking at this article, it says that people who are rated higher on the Affective Neuroscience Personality Scale, which measures a person's tendency to be sadness, were more prone to experience nostalgia. And people who felt that's because we have better connections in our brains and in our bodies. This isn't me talking about reading from the article why we're doing this. It's because when you attach something, a neuron will attach to your memory and make it part of your emotional stimulation. And for me, I don't necessarily know for sure if this is a fact. So definitely, if you're thinking that this is 100% scientific, please do more research if you are going to believe me. It's definitely not the most scientific thing. I'm just reading it off of an article that may not be even extremely reputable. And with nostalgia, you attach yourself to a memory and what it was like, and you'll start stimulating your body once you see these nostalgic things, and you just feel so good about it. And that's because when we're younger, at least in my experience, you are attaching certain memories and they become part of your memory longer, in my opinion. When you're 16 and you hear a band that you really love and that really inspired you, you're going to remember them maybe 15 years in the future, because really when it comes down to it, if you lose your memory, you're not going to remember your most recent memories. You're going to remember the ones that are oldest. And those are the ones that you usually end up reverting back to. And with that, you're just in your own soul, your own body, and you're I can remember this. It's this visceral experience. And with Phineas and Ferb, it's just the classics, the simplistic formatting and all the characters. You're seeing all of these people and remembering all these things and what the good memories you had. I love watching the Phineas and Ferb Christmas special. I watch it every single year. since it came out in 2008. I have not missed it without fail. During the holiday season, I will at least watch it once. And it is my holy grail of my favorite Christmas specials. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. That's because, like, it's, like, about Santa and whether Santa is real and, like, people believing in Santa. And, like, I don't know why I get so emotional talking about this show, but it's, like, you can feel the nostalgia. And that's really what this is about. That the nostalgia and why I'm addressing it. Like, honestly, I don't review TV shows and movies if they don't have a purpose to me. Like, I love The Kissing Booth, and I did a review on The Kissing Booth too, but I kind of did it more to address a couple of the more important points. And if there isn't a importance to something, then why would I review it? It's the exact same way. Like, Phineas and Ferb may be a kid's TV show, but it's important because it's our memories. It's part of ourselves now and our part of ourselves in the past. And that's really what's most important when it comes to nostalgia. Is it's connected to you from when you were younger to now, and that's what really binds us to our own experiences later on in life. So I know that this review kind of ends at nostalgia, but I wanted to acknowledge some of the other characters and what an amazing job they've done. And like Candace, who is played by Ashley Tisdale. I love Ashley. High School Musical, are you kidding me? She's done Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, not Sweet Life on Deck. She guest starred in an episode. And then there is Allison Stoner, who plays Isabella. I love her, like the Camp Rock movies, and like even the work she's doing now, her dancing, her performing. I love her. She's just so connected to herself and who she wants to be, and is still looking for that. And also just the creators of the show. And it's Dan Swampy Marshall, I think. He's one of the creators, and he did like Milo Murphy's Law, which in my opinion is one of the greatest shows. I love it because it has that weird element that you really need in your life, and it feels like Phineas and Ferb, but it's also not like Phineas and Ferb. So you're just like in this like, oh no, what do I do? But aside from that, the characters that come back, there is like this song in the movie that talks about adulting and growing up that Isabella and Dr. Doofenshmirtz sings. Now, Isabella is the one who's usually very headstrong, will do anything for Phineas because she loves him, and there's just more and more and more to that. Whereas Doofenshmirtz, he kind of more focuses on his innators, wants love from his daughter Vanessa, and then there's also the aspect of just him wanting to feel like an adult, because in a way he just is this evil scientist who stays on this penthouse apartment and always is doofed by, no pun intended, by Agent Perry and his amazing secret agent skills for Alka. So like you get this whole feeling, and adulting and coming together, again, very evident, and just the fun of it. Like, this is fun. This is all it is. It's just enjoyable and easy and just fun. That's what this movie is about. For any Phineas and Ferb fans, you'll definitely want to see this because it helps close and tie some loose ends from the finale of the show, and also makes you kind of want to have a sequel of the show. Like, now I kind of want them to reboot the show. Like, even for maybe like 10, 15 episodes, I'd be fine with that. I'd be so happy I'd watch it. As long as it's on Disney Plus, because I don't have cable. But yeah, that's pretty much the end of this review. And wow, I just really wanted to say thank you guys for sticking it out with me, because this was really difficult to shoot. This is the hardest one I've had to do so far, because you're thinking about a TV show for kids. You're like, oh my gosh, I was this kid at this age, but then you're like, I don't know anything. And it's just hard to analyze something just because you loved it as a kid, because some people may not feel the same way. And that's pretty much the whole premise of this show, is that I'm not trying to make you like it, but I want you to see it at least from this perspective that I have. And maybe from other perspectives, once I can get some guests on the show who will be willing to watch these movies or TV shows and just talk to me about it. So, yeah. Okay, now it's officially the end of this episode. Thank you guys so much for listening and sticking it out with me. And I'll see you guys in the next episode of Colleague in Circumstances. Bye!